Be starting in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for our AV to be sorted. Long enough? Great, thank you. Perfect. Great, welcome everyone. And we are calling to order this meeting of the Albany Unified School District Board of Education. The time now is 6:02, and it's Tuesday, August the 12th. Could we please have a roll call to establish quorum?
Trustee Inglis.
Here.
Trustee Khan.
Here.
Trustee Davidson is absent tonight. Vice President Mahoney.
Here.
President Hopwood.
Here.
Superintendent Stone.
Here.
Thank you. And now Trustee Inglis and Trustee Khan will read the mission statement and meeting norms.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Meeting norms. Maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed. Treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. Endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's belief in what is best for students. Make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you both. And now we're moving on to item C, the approval of the agenda. Anybody ready to move to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as is.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 The agenda passes unanimously, and we're now moving on to item D, the Pledge of Allegiance, which Trustee Mahoney will lead if, Vice President Mahoney will lead if anybody would like to participate. Thank you. And we are now on item 2, spotlights and recognitions. We don't have a spotlight at this meeting, but we would like to mention our proclamation for this month, which is recognizing National Hispanic and Latine Heritage Month from September the 15th to October the 15th, 2025. Do we have that to show, or should we? Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. We'll start, yeah. Whereas the Albany Unified School District Board of Education, the board, recognizes the integral role and influence of Hispanic, Latine people to the history, culture, language, and achievements of the United States, and
Whereas Hispanic and Latine Heritage Month is recognized nationally from September 15th through October 15th to honor the histories, cultures, and contributions of Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And
whereas September 15th is significant as the anniversary of independence for Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, while Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence on September 16th and 18th respectively, and
whereas Hispanic and Latine individuals have shaped the United States and our local communities through contributions in the arts, education, science, government, business, labor, public service, and countless other fields, and
whereas Hispanic and Latine students make up approximately 17% of Albany Unified School District's total enrollment, reflecting the vibrant diversity and cultural strength that enriches our classrooms and campuses, and
whereas Albany Unified School District proudly honors the cultural legacies, lived experiences, and achievements of Hispanic and Latine students, staff, families, and community partners who contribute to the strength, diversity, and excellence of our schools and programs, and
whereas the district is committed to fostering inclusive, culturally responsive learning environments that affirm the identities of all students and staff and ensure access, equity, and engagement for everyone, and
whereas Hispanic and Latine Heritage Month provides an opportunity for schools to celebrate identity and build understanding through inclusive curriculum, community engagement, and meaningful cultural recognition.
The Board of Trustees aspires that this recognition not only celebrates the past and present contributions of Hispanic and Latine Americans, but also inspires meaningful actions throughout the district in pursuit of a more equitable and inclusive future for all.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that Albany Unified School District Board of Education hereby recognizes and proclaims September 15th through October 15th, 2025 as National Hispanic and Latine Heritage Month.
The district encourages school administration, staff, families, and community partners to engage in meaningful activities, curriculum integration, and events that celebrate the history, heritage, and achievements of Latine and Hispanic communities.
All schools within the district are urged to distribute this resolution widely and incorporate inclusive programming, student-led initiatives, and culturally responsive curriculum during this observance.
Thank you all so much. And we will now move on to item 3, which is our general public comment period, which is just on non-agendized items. So if you'd like to make a comment, could you please approach the podium? Thank you. And just remember that the board can't respond to these items, and we can, if you email us, we can easily respond.
Good evening, Albany community. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Linda Kaiser, here 2 months into retirement after 21 rich and wonderful years teaching French in Albany Unified Schools. I am and will always be grateful for the members of the community who have supported the French program. But all is not well for French in Albany schools. Less than a week before schedules went out to AMS students, we learned that for the first time, no French will be taught to 7th graders, and that the 8th grade class will be the last French class at AMS. With no middle school students feeding into the AHS French program, this decision almost certainly deals a fatal blow to our program. This is not due to lack of student interest in learning French. There were 2 full classes in this year's 7th graders who chose French as their first choice elective, and now 60 or so students will have a second choice language. The administration would say that they tried to hire a qualified French teacher as my replacement. I told them in the spring that 20 or 40% part-time position that they posted would not attract a qualified candidate, and it did not. The posting ought to have been for 60% French, perhaps with an extra study class to make 80, but no one who had the power wanted to support French in Albany schools. Unfortunately, this is nothing new. In 24-25, another language teacher taught more than full-time, 120%, when there was room in my schedule to teach a second 7th grade class without exceeding my teaching load. Albany Schools Administration is starving the French program and is poised to eliminate it. This program, which has produced so many fluent French speakers from scratch, I am asking the administration to finally support the French program by allowing students who choose French to take it and make a sincere effort to fully staff the program. If you agree, please speak out to the administration. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Whoever's next, go ahead and approach them. You have 2 minutes again.
Hi, my name is Yolanka Fisher. I have 3 children in Albany Public Schools, 1 in Marin and 2 at AMS. I was not planning on speaking during this period. I was actually planning on speaking later, so you'll see me again later. But Madame Kaiser has motivated me to speak because I found out yesterday about the change with French. I have my oldest daughter has been taking French with Madame Kaiser, Penelope Nickerman, and she loved it. And so I think this change is awful, and I agree with everything that Madame Kaiser said, and I hope that this is evaluated and taken into consideration. It is. I worked at registration yesterday. Many kids were disappointed to see that they did not get French on their schedules for 6th and I assume 7th graders. So I think that I know sometimes decisions are made and they can be undone. I think things can be changed, and I think it's extremely valuable. My daughter loves French. Languages are very hard. I remember I went to Berkeley High. Languages are difficult. When you get people to love language, it's a beautiful thing, and it's part of what public schools are for. So I just want to encourage everyone here to take a second look and evaluate everything Madame Kaiser said. Merci, thank you.
Your comment. Go ahead, Neri.
Good evening, Board. Welcome to the new academic year. Neri Castillo-McIntyre. I'm a member of the Albany Disability Squad, and my Another parent is going to speak more deeply about personal experience, but my comment today has to do with the board's decision to remove remote access to public comment during board meetings. We understand that you continue to make the meeting available online via YouTube, but that deprives remote participants from the ability to comment live to whatever is being discussed during the meeting. And in addition to individuals with disabilities who have a difficult time coming to the meetings in person, students old enough with disabilities who might want to participate, caregivers who might be single parents, caregivers who might have work schedules that prevent them from being here in person and would like to still participate remotely. All kinds of stakeholders, not just parents, but as AUSD is the largest employer in the City of Albany, you can imagine that a whole bunch of people within AUSD itself are affected by the board's decision not to make public comment available remotely. So I'd ask that while yes, this continues to be transparent because this is available online, on the packet it says that you do continue to make this accessible, and it isn't accessible to a whole lot of people who are not able to come here in person and have the luxury, as I do, that my partner is willing to, take care of dinner, bedtime, and all of those things while I'm here making public comment. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Go ahead.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Stone. What you have done, eliminating remote public comment, is wrong. It is undemocratic, it is inequitable, and is it an assault to the community you are elected to serve. You have taken away the ability for everyone who cannot physically be here, parents, caregivers, people with disabilities, students, those with chronic illnesses, people working multiple jobs, to have their voices heard. That is not just inconvenient. That is silencing the public. You are shutting out the very people who fund these schools, and you are doing it in direct contradiction to your own LCAP and your mission statement, which is promise collaboration, equity, and leadership together. Removing access is not leadership, it's control. We live in 2025. Technology allows participation from anywhere. There is no excuse for rolling back accessibility unless the goal is to avoid hearing from the public. And if that's your goal, you should be honest enough to admit it. Albany is a public school system. The public has the right to participate. You do not get to take that away because it's easier for you not to listen. So restore remote public comment now, not as a favor, but because it is our right.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you guys do. Two things, quick things. J'étudie le français 4 ans à l'école aussi. So I think it's great. Also, I see Latina, but I don't see Latino up there. You want to be representative of all the Latinos, include that word. Because if you go to Richmond community and all the communities around here, hardly you ever will hear Latina. Only around Berkeley and Albany, some parts, you'll hear it. The rest of us, that's how we identify. So I ask for your respect to that as well. Second, I have a whole speech about taking remote access. I implore you to look at the Attorney General Rob Bonta's affirmed the remote participation is a reasonable accommodation for individuals whose disability prevent in-person attendance. So I heard back from an email saying that we are going to, but had I not known about this meeting from a parent just yesterday night, how hard would it have been, or how easy would it have been for me to come over here and talk to you in remote? Actually, sorry, how hard would it have been for me to have accessibility? Have you thought about that? disability, I am a disabled veteran with a lot of disability. Do you know how hard it was to come here? Do you know how my day started? Do you know how the day started of a father or a mother or both parents to find a time to come here? You see, the Brown Act was enabled, it was put into law because it gave transparency. Welcome to the digital world. It's not going anywhere. We have the ChatGPT 5. I'm also learning, but we have to stay with the current way that we are going to be teaching in the future. And this, I hope this stays. Because as a parent who my wife had to stay with my kids in order for me to voice this, I'm telling you, we don't have all that luxury. Some parents are just one parent, and I know a lot of them.
Thank you
So
for your
please
comment.
stay.
Thank you for your comment so much.
Thank you
Sorry
very
to
much.
cut you off, but
And please do read my email. I send it to everyone.
thanks, and I responded to. Anybody else like to make some public comment? Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Dora Rios. My daughter Camila will start 9th grade tomorrow. She was excited, all summer. High school is something big for teenagers. My whole family pretty much is into science. My husband is a nurse. My oldest daughter wants to be a speech pathology. My son a physical therapy. And my daughter Camila also is looking through that path. On Friday, she got her schedule, and she was told that the science class was full. So she is unable to take it this year. She was devastated. She was the one to tell me, please go to the board. Please voice, I also speak for other families who are not frustrated and disappointed. We think science is an important class to take as a freshman. She had to choose between art and another fine art class. And she said, no, I don't want to take that other fine art class. I want to take science. And all these, she was thinking that night, am I going to be able to take it next year? I'm going to be with my cohort. I'm going to be able to take it in senior. Am I going to be so it's already stressing her out as a 14-year-old. I don't know how that happened, to be honest, in Albany. We made a huge effort to live here. We know the schools are great, and that's why we chose Albany. I am a teacher. I looked very carefully where I wanted to live. And I was able to pay the high taxes and the high property, prices that the houses have in this area. So I would like all of you to reconsider. I don't know how that happened, to be honest, because I know they made projections in the spring to see all the numbers of kids so they have enough teachers to cover such an important class as science. And to hear that it's full, it's for us as a family is unacceptable and extremely disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And I would just say, would you email the Board of Ed at ausdk12.org, because we do have some information, and that is a kind of discussion going on at the district level about this. So if you email us, we can actually respond with some information. That would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for your comment. Does anybody else have public comment for matters not on the agenda? And if you do, please feel free to approach the podium. I'm not seeing anyone else. So thank you very much, everyone, and for being here too. And we will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the reports section. A is student board member reports, but as you'll notice, we don't have our student board members here tonight as they start school tomorrow. And then B, we have Labour partner reports. It's a new sort of feature. So if anybody here from our Labour partners wants to comment, please do. Great. Thanks, Kim.
So first of all, thank you for adding this to the agenda. Appreciate that a lot. I don't have anything prepared, but I do want to echo just what Madame Kaiser said, that we were surprised and disappointed to find out that the language was cut. And we all came back and found out that there would be no more French. So also, I want to just say that all the teachers are excited about coming back to work and being back in the swing of things. I came back last week, all week long, and was setting up my room and getting things done, and the parking lot was full. So, I mean, there's people who have been busy even now coming over here. The teachers were still in their classrooms this evening getting ready, so we've been busy. And I know our new teachers, we're excited about having our new teachers. There was training last week. They were disappointed they didn't get paid for their time, but other than that, again, we're excited and we look forward to seeing all the kids tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim, and yeah, have a wonderful school year. I hope you and your colleagues do, and we really do appreciate everything you do, so thanks for being here. And now we're moving on to item C, which is our superintendent report.
Good evening, trustees and President Hopwood. Thank you. As our fabulous labor partner, Kim Gray, mentioned, we are up and running, getting ready for our new school year to start tomorrow. But I did want to spend a tiny bit of time talking about what happened this summer. So we were busy this summer. We were able to run a comprehensive summer school program at Ocean View. We worked on several facilities projects over the summer. We had a lot of planning time, and we held several leadership retreats this summer. And yesterday, we were able to hold our Welcome Back Day for all staff. A little bit of data about our summer program. So it was run at Ocean View. Our district-run program focused on our special education extended year program, or otherwise known as ESY, English language development summer bridge program, and then high school credit recovery and grade elevation program. Our ELOP, or Extended Learning Opportunities Program partner, the YMCA, led that program, which served our TK through 6th grade students, and they were able to have some hands-on enrichment activities, other opportunities to connect with their peers, and have some fun experiences together. The data is very hard to see from here, but you can see the bottom chart is our different schools for the ELOP program, so you can see representation across the schools. And then the top chart shows who was served in our district-run program this summer. So one of the things that we are working on, we heard loud and clear last year how important it is, and I absolutely agree, that we have safe, clean, well-maintained schools. And our summer school, or excuse me, our summer projects were many. We had 45 days to complete these projects, and some of them are definitely things that you will notice and see, and others, of course, are behind the scenes and you may not notice them. But we did have a very, very hard-working maintenance and operations crew this summer, as well as our custodians. And I do also just want to highlight that this continues to be something that I am very focused on. I think it is very important that kids walk into clean, sparkling clean schools, and we are working on that. We are, and just to mention some of the things from public comment, staffing has been challenging in a lot of different places. Custodial is no different. Finding teachers who are qualified for different programs is definitely more and more challenging over the years, and it's the same for finding classified staff. So we really are working hard to figure out how to do that. Next slide, please. So this is just understanding the volume of requests that come in terms of, these are called our tickets, our maintenance tickets or work order tickets. And so we received about 1,400 tickets by July 1st, excuse me, between July and June, and we were able to complete a little over 1,100. So we feel proud, and I am proud of our team for this, and of course we want to be able to accomplish all of them. This is some of the work that we were able to accomplish this summer. That one picture all the way on the right side looks terrible. However, it's a work in progress, but what that will show is that we are developing a much needed storage facility space at our district office. If you come into our district home office, you'll notice that we have boxes everywhere. We need somewhere to put them. So appreciate that that's something that was being worked on. But that, of course, was not the most important project of the summer, and so that is why it's not completed. But some of these others were much more important. We were able to open up a wall at Ocean View, so we were able to make a larger classroom for our growing student population. We were able to take down an unsafe fence at the middle school and create a safer environment. And then at Ocean View, we were able to put up a correct barrier again, for safety. And then I think one of the things that Scott Jaffe, our Director of Maintenance and Operations, is the most excited about is being able to wash the windows at the high school so you can see through them now, which is very nice. Again, we're still working on getting better at this, but we're proud. So as we move forward this year, we're really working hard to align our instructional goals, our metrics, and our priorities. We want to clarify expectations for communication and decision-making. I very much appreciate community coming out today to talk about how we can do better with collaboration and what's important to them. And so it's important that we really have clarity around that and that we're hearing and we have the proper channels for communication and decision-making. Big goal is to strengthen our Tier 1 supports for social emotional learning, behavior, and school climate. Apologize that those are acronyms there. Tier 1 being first best instruction and social emotional learning, behavior, and school climate. That was something that over the last day, teachers spent time just thinking about the first 6 weeks of school and planning so that kids can access instruction, which is the most important thing. We want our schools to be clean, safe, so that they can come in and have high quality, amazing instruction. And a big part of that is starting the school off successfully. And so they had some time to plan together. We also want to use data to support our students so we understand their sense of belonging and wellness. And so that's something that we'll be working on this year quite a bit, is actually looking at data, taking in more data, understanding it. Our teachers yesterday, K8 were trained in a new assessment system, the Dibbles assessment system for elementary, and then middle school, the STAR Renaissance. We're also trying to streamline internal systems and cross-department workflow. A lot of what people see on the outside that feel maybe that it's not working well really often will start because we're not actually working well together internally. So we're really trying to de-silo some of our departments and get really clear about what are the cross-departmental work streams that we have, and be really clear about that. We now have something that is pretty transparent for our staff, and working on creating that transparency on our district website about who does what, who is responsible for what across our district. We also, this year, one of, I think, my biggest goals is having greater transparency in budgeting so people really understand what our limitations are, what money we actually receive and generate, and how much money we're putting out. I would love to be able to figure that out as a community because we want to serve our kids with the best, most stellar program possible, which includes all of the languages, which includes making sure, no matter what, that we have everything we need in all of our grade levels. And our budgeting is challenging, as well as staffing, to be quite honest. And then really centering leadership development is a huge part of the goal this year. So those are just some things that I'm planning around and that I'm working towards. And that is in service of these three big priorities around rigor, belonging, and having high quality systems. Next slide, please. So as a district office team or an executive team, one of the things that we spent time talking about this summer was this notion brought forward by Dr. Sean Ginwright about the 4 pivots. These are ways of looking at how we can work together and how we can impact the system in a positive way. And I just wanted to highlight these because I think it's important that we take time to look not just outward but inward as we're doing our leadership development, that we're moving from being transactional to transformative, that we're thinking instead of all the problems, we're looking at all the possibilities. And I think for me, the biggest one and my goal this year is to, now that we have shored up some systems that I think will be really impactful for our students moving forward, that we're flowing, we're not hustling anymore. We're actually flowing, we're moving forward. Next slide. I did want to highlight who our executive cabinet and who our extended cabinet and who our leadership are across our district. I think sometimes it's a little bit confusing about leadership structures. And so again, as we move towards more transparency and as we move towards actually an updated website, we'll be posting this information. So it's really, really clear who does what and where. And I do apologize for the tiny print. Next slide, please. I will be happy to send this out to folks too if they have questions. So this was what our leadership retreat looked like. We actually had the opportunity to drive to the Marin Headlands and spend some time really thinking about, again, those 4 pivots and spending some time centering ourselves. So it was a very positive experience in terms of coming together and doing some planning, but we also wanted to start with that notion of going from hustle to flow. Next slide. And then yesterday, we had a great day back. I did not have time to put all the pictures in, but some of them are on our website now. We were able to have an opening with all staff. We invited all staff to come back and ground and connect with each other. And then we did a differentiated professional development for different levels and different departments. And then today, teachers were able to go to their school sites and set up. The executive team actually went out and helped in different classrooms and in libraries and other areas. I actually myself learned how to cover books today for the first time, which I found to be really, really fun and engaging. And while that was happening, all of our paraprofessionals were being trained in crisis prevention. And that was something really important and something we were asked to do last year. And so we were able to do that. So that was a lot, but I'm very excited about tomorrow. I can't wait to see all the kids' faces. This is all in service of the students. Everything that we do is because we want the students to have the very best, and I can't wait to see them tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're moving on now to D, board committee updates. Now not many of our committees have actually resumed, but we did have a board policy committee meeting last Tuesday. So the board policy committee is a body that reviews existing policies in the district and considers changes made in state legislation, and we update our policies to reflect those changes so that we're compliant and that we're current. So we met last Tuesday, and the next meeting for that committee will be on September the 16th. So anybody who wants to come to that is very welcome to, and we post that agenda ahead of time and the location. Anybody else on the board have an update for a committee? Nope, not seeing anyone. So we now are moving on.
Sorry, I don't mean to. Is there an opportunity to speak on the subjects that are being talked about after the presenter?
So we will, when we get to our the next section of our meeting, which is the review and action and then review and discussion, we will have public comment periods after each of those items. Yeah, yeah. No, we don't have comments on board reports though, and not on superintendent's report. So we're on board member reports now, and so I'm going to throw it down to Trustee Inklis over there. We'll work our way back up this way.
So welcome back, everybody. I don't have a huge report since we're just back tomorrow, but I was very excited to attend the opening events and see all of our amazing teachers and staff on Monday. It was very, very heartening, and welcome back and hope for a really great year.
Also, welcome back. But my summer, there was no board committees for me, but I did spend quite a bit of my time this summer working with Ocean Views PTA to help plan for our budget, future events, and so forth. There's obviously a lot of work to do, and I want to give a lot of appreciation to all of the PTA board members who worked throughout the summer while, you know, everybody else is relaxing. So just lots of appreciation for that.
I too echo the welcome back sentiments. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I recently listened to a podcast called Cautionary Tales, primarily on how Shiat Day, a cutting-edge advertising agency, tried to change revolutionary workspaces in the 1990s. And they sought to spur creativity by forcing people out of offices into face-to-face conversation. And as part of that podcast, it reminded me of a local creative space myth that we have here, which is the Steve Jobs building and headquarters over at Pixar in Embryville. In order to create a more creative workspace, Jobs sought to have only one set of bathrooms in the building, all in the atrium. By doing this, he thought people would come together multiple times per day to create those random interactions that lead to creativity. Now, Jobs had been super particular about the building. He picked out the wood himself, as you can imagine. He chose the steel girders from a very specific plant in Arkansas. And so when Jobs proposed the bathroom things, he fully expected to get his way. After all, creativity was a laudable goal. But his employees were upset. And for instance, a pregnant woman noted that she would rather quit than have to drag herself all the way to the atrium multiple times a day just to go to the bathroom. And it turned out that multiple people actually pushed back on Jobs. And in the end, he actually compromised. It's something he didn't often do. And the building today, as I understand it, has not one but 4 sets of bathrooms. Even with just the 4 sets of bathrooms, Jobs was largely right. The face-to-face conversations have led to amazing creativity at Pixar. But probably just as importantly, by engaging and getting feedback from his employees, they felt empowered. And that sense of ownership of those people in that space was as important as the creativity that we associate with Pixar. So as we move forward throughout the year, our success is largely going to be built not just on what we do, but how we do it. And in my experience, the best way to do that is collaboratively.
Thank you. Words of wisdom. And I also attended the high school yesterday for the opening day, as well as President Mahoney. And yeah, that was great. Lovely to see so many teachers. And I would also just mention that we have received, as you might imagine, a lot of emails in the last couple of days, and we really appreciate the engagement, and we appreciate that you're all here. And this is quite a sort of bit of a record, I think, for attendance, and we understand why that is, but I just want you to know that it's appreciated, and please continue to reach out. Always email the board anytime. I hope that those of you who have reached out in the last day or two have received responses. I know the superintendent and I have been busy today trying to get back to all of you. Anyway, appreciate your engagement, and thank you, and I hope you and your kids will have an amazing school year. No further report from me, so we will now move on to our review and action item section. And our first one is the provisional internship permit, and I think that is, yeah, Marina Gonzalez will be presenting that.
Good evening. This may look familiar to some of you, it might be new to others. This is, I'm bringing this forward because we have a teacher who doesn't quite have their full credential just yet, but they're in a credential program. And in order for them to serve with our students, they need to apply for and obtain a provisional intern permit from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And the board has to actually approve it in open session on action.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments about this item? Nope, not seeing any. Does anybody in our audience have any public comment to make or any question about this item? If you do, you can approach the podium. And I'm not seeing anyone. You're ready to move?
I move to approve the provisional internship permit.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So that item passes. Thank you so much. And we are now going to move on to the approval of our 45-day budget revision for Albany Unified School District with our Chief Business Official, Linda Wu.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well and had a great summer. I'm here to actually provide an update with regards to what's considered the 45-day budget revision. It's a formal update once the governor's budget is actually approved at the end of June. If there is some sort of a significant change, we're required to update the board with regards to what that impact is. For the most part, I'm happy to say that we've heard a lot of chatter with regards to our federal funds, and the federal government has agreed to actually release those funds. So initially, I thought I would come here and tell you that there's a negative change to the federal funds, but I'm happy to report that there isn't, and that what we projected is expected to stay the same. With regards to some of the other funding sources, the ELOP, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, we did get updated notifications with regards to what our award is. So we are expecting to take down the budget by approximately that much. The really good news is that even though it's one time, it's kind of like how you take it. The really good news is that there is a one-time discretionary block grant. For the most part, they've outlined that it's supposed to go towards professional development type of activities and programming, but it is also discretionary to the district as well. It is one time, but I'm happy to report that that results with a positive impact of about $1.1 million. And so my recommendation is actually for the board to approve the 45-day budget revision.
Thank you so much, and thanks for keeping track of all of the changes. Anybody on the board have any questions or comments about this item?
On the block grant, my understanding is that that's money to be used over a 3-year period. Is that your understanding as well?
We have until 2029 to actually fully expend it. So it's right now we're in the early stages of actually developing the program to follow the dollars with that, but we do have until 2029.
Okay, great. And the rest of it seems like puts and takes in the grand scheme of things.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Does anybody in our audience have any comment about that item? Oops, I'm not seeing any, so we'd like to make a motion. Anybody? I'll move to approve the 45-day budget revision for Albany Unified School District.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So that passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we are moving on to C, the adoption of instructional materials, elementary and middle school designated English language development curriculum. And a big welcome to Karen Schreiner, who is our new Executive Director of Teaching and Learning.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you all. I'm excited to continue the work that Michelle Sinclair has been leading over the past several years around supporting our teachers with strong teaching and learning, curriculum and instruction. And in 2022, 2023, a group of designated English language development teachers, our ELD teachers, were exploring different curricula to support our multilingual learners with designated ELD, which is their legal and moral right to have access to that instruction to acquire English. And so our teachers engaged in a process where they explored different curricula, they piloted it with a particular grade level, and then they expanded that to scale to teach with more grade levels and engage in professional learning. And so today we're bringing this for proposed adoption for our designated ELD curriculum after seeing some good success in terms of our English language learners' growth over the past few years. So that would be the recommendation that we would like to put forth today.
Thank you so much. I'm going to reverse it a little bit. Anybody in our audience want to comment on this item?
Thank you. English learners, when I was young, is that ESL? Back in the days?
Different acronym now, but yes.
No, I absolutely. I just wanted to kind of make sure. I think it's a great idea. Honestly, I am part of the Familias Latinas de Albany. And I've spoken to many parents, and seeing the support to all the children in the school system, elementary, that's where my daughters, most of the parents that I've talked to, have had a difficult time. I think that support is amazing because a lot of the time the parents want to support them, but then themselves are also English learners.
Right.
So having this support be embedded into their curriculum, outstanding.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else in our audience have a comment? We'll move to the board now. Does anybody on the board have a question or comment?
I move to approve the adoption of the instructional materials for elementary and middle school designated English language development curriculum.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that also passes. Thank you.
Thanks so
I think
much.
you're staying for the next one as
I
well,
sure
aren't
am.
you? Yeah, so we're moving on to D, which is Happy Numbers Digital Math Support Program.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to bring this to the board. Happy Numbers is a program that aligns with the Common Core shifts in mathematics in terms of supporting students to develop their conceptual understanding and, most importantly, really respond to students. Teachers love the word misconception, so the little error that they have for some kind of reason. And it brings in manipulatives and different charts and models to support students to learn not just with abstract numbers, but with hands-on manipulatives. And so we'd like to put forth the adoption of the Happy Numbers Digital Support Program for our kiddos to support their math development.
Sounds good. Anybody here in our audience have a comment to make? You're fine, go ahead.
You're going to see me a lot because I speak to parents all the time, so I appreciate it. Just bear with me. Honestly, perfect. I know parents who have their kids in different programs to get help, and I got to tell you, Happy Numbers have been, when used with what the teacher is teaching in the classroom, and in alliance with their plan, it's an outstanding resource. I've seen kids who have a hard time with the materials in school to have that accessible at home. Because this is not just for the teachers, but it's also a tool for the parents.
That's right.
And the parents, having this available to them has been, to me, I can speak, a wonderful way to engage with my daughters. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your comment. There are no other comments from our audience. I'll move on to the board for questions or comments. Anybody here? You ready to make a motion to approve this program?
I move to approve Happy Numbers Digital Math Support Program.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, so that also passes, and I know you're here for the next couple too. So we're looking at the Albany Unified School District Independent Contractor Services Agreement with Mary Trinkle for Math Vision.
And Sarah, are you taking this or am I taking this? Okay, thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, we are bringing forward tonight a contract to support our district-wide math vision and action plan. It's something that I've heard many, many times from our community since I've been here, that we're excited that we're focusing on literacy this year, but what about math? And so we are, as you could see from my previous presentation, we're a small but mighty district office team, and one of the things that we really need is some support in helping create this really clear math vision that's aligned TK through actually post-secondary. And so we are putting this before the board tonight to have someone come and work with our math vision team this year to develop that aligned vision and also to do some professional development at the same time.
Great, thank you. Anybody here have a comment? Go ahead.
Members of the board, Superintendent Stone, my name is Catherine Cronquist-Browning. I'm the Albany Middle School PTA president, and I have a 7th grader at Albany Middle School. And I didn't specifically plan to speak on this item today, but I actually wanted to applaud you for working on this. I've heard a lot of concerns about math instruction across the district, articulation between the middle and the high school, college readiness, and the curriculum that's currently adopted. And so without knowing more than is in the details, I definitely would be in favor of this. And I was actually just speaking with our PTA vice president yesterday, who has a lot of concerns about math instruction as well. So we would be happy to see this, and thank you so much for working on it.
Thank you so much for your comment. Anybody else in our audience? And not seeing any, so we'll move to the board. If anyone has a question or a comment.
I mean, I for better or for worse, I'm just going to echo what we heard from the audience. I think many on the board know that I've had lots of thoughts about our math curriculum across the board, and I think it's really a holistic thing we need to look at. So I'm actually really excited that we're able to move this up from a timeline perspective and make progress on it a little bit earlier than I probably thought we were going to, given the initial focus on reading, which I still think is the right thing to do. But the fact that we're going to be able to address some of the more holistic approach on math across the different grade levels is going to be critical. So I'm wholeheartedly in support of this, obviously.
Great, thank you. And I also appreciate how our literacy efforts are going to work hand in hand with math also. So it's very timely. Are we ready to move to approve this contract with Mary Trinkle?
Sure, I'll move to approve the AUSD Independent Contract Services Agreement with Mary Trinkle, Math Vision.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that passes, thank you. And now moving on to item F, the approval of contract with Collaborative Classroom to provide professional learning for pre-K teachers.
Yeah, so we're really excited about this one. Collaborative Classroom is a publishing suite that creates our current literacy intervention curriculum, SIPS, which stands for Systematic Instruction in Phonics, Phonological Awareness, and Sight Words, that many, if not most, of our elementary reading interventionists use. And Collaborative Classroom has a suite of curricula for ages 3 through 5, so really targeted for preschool and TK teachers. It supports students' social emotional development, helping teachers and children create really strong relationships, and it really lays the foundation for vital early literacy success. Concepts of print and read-alouds that are really engaging, and phonemic awareness, which are all keys to setting up our kinder students for success throughout elementary school. And so this summer, and connecting with Josh Reed, our director of the ACC, he shared, how eager his pre-K team is for this kind of learning, which it sounds like they haven't had that kind of professional learning in a long time, and so they're super excited. We had our first PD day yesterday, which I just read the feedback for, which is overwhelmingly positive. And so we're excited to work with Collaborative Classroom and have some really strong early childhood educators come out to Albany each month to support our teachers with implementation. We know that buying a curriculum is not enough. We have to actually put the time, the resources, support, and money into implementing it well and supporting our teachers. So the recommendation is to approve this contract with the Collaborative Classroom.
Thank you. And once again, any comments from the audience here? I'm not seeing anybody. Anyone on the board?
You took my one question, which was going to be how did it go yesterday, and it sounds like it went well, so that's good, positive feedback. Random question, and I apologize, I usually send these things out in advance, but is this the kind of thing that we can use some of that block grant money for from a professional learning perspective, and is that the plan with this program?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, since we found out about the block grant, we have planning to do. I would say that on the nice to have list for one-time funding that's meant for professional development, this, as well as building out the math understanding and vision is a big part of that.
Good question. Are we ready to move on this one?
Just a quick appreciation for working on this, because as the state continues to create and expand pre-K and all of that, this is very much needed. So I appreciate that you're taking this early step instead of waiting. So yeah, and with that, I will move to approve the contract with Collaborative Classroom to provide professional learning for pre-K teachers.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So that also passes. And now we're moving on to item G, the Albany Unified School District Independent Contractor Services Agreement with the Unwound Mind LLC, and that's Superintendent Stone.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a contract that is actually, I'm bringing specifically to recommend to support our board. Our board is a very hardworking team, and they deserve professional learning and growth as well. And so we have 2 board retreats that are scheduled this year, and I am recommending that we have an outside facilitator, Jenna Menti, with the Unwound Mind, come and facilitate those retreats. Part of the reason for this is also someone who is currently coaching our site leaders, and so has a very clear context of what's going on at our sites through that, and I think we'll be able to help bridge the work that's happening at the school sites with the work of the board. So it's my recommendation that we approve this contract for those retreats.
Thank you, and we're looking forward to them. Anybody in the audience have a question or a comment about that item? I'm not seeing any. So what I would just say is, here it says financial information is $14,000, but I did notice that there's also a 5% administration fee, so it takes the total to $14,700. So I wonder if we want to, we make an amendment as we.
That is news to me. I would actually recommend that we approve it at the 14,
Okay, sure.
and that I work with the Unwound Mind to keep it at 14 cap.
Sure. Okay, great. That sounds better. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Are we ready to move that?
Sure. I move to approve the AUSD Independent Contract Services Agreement with the Unwound Mind LLC.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So that passes. Thank you. And now the last item in our review and action section is the AUSD bond tax rate setting process and resolution. So Linda Wu is here again for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening again. I'm here to actually bring to you a formality, which is to recommend that the board approves the resolution to allow for Alameda County Board of Supervisors to actually do the tax rate setting on the bond, the Measure L bond that was approved back in November of 2024. The resolution is in front of you. I'm not sure if you have any questions with regards to that, but really, it's a formality that allows them to do so.
Thank you. Great, thanks for pulling it up. Does anyone here in our audience have any comments about this? This resolution or this bond tax rate setting process? Anybody on the board? Probably not. So we would need to do a roll call for this as it's a resolution.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry I didn't check this earlier in your links, but what is this? Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes, back in November of 2024, there was a bond measure that was actually approved, Measure L, that is a part of a facilities plan that authorized $64 million for the school district to be able to make facility improvements.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it says about the facility improvement in order to use the bond for that purpose. Is that correct? Oh, okay.
It's allowing for the tax rate. So there's a series of phases that have to take place. So we have to allow for the county to actually set the tax rate to the taxpayers that'll help support us with this. And then next, we're also going to relaunch the Facilities Master Planning Committee back in September to start making the plans with regards to what we want to prioritize with those funds.
And the tax rates are going to be based on what the law was passed, right? There's not going to be any new addition to anything on the tax code? Sorry.
As far as I understand, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and Alameda wants this because they need approval from the city. And is the city going to have a saying on this? If, how is Alameda calculating all these percentages?
So Alameda County is the tax assessor's office, is the one that helps us to actually authorize the taxes that we put out there to property owners and so forth. And so this is actually a part of the formality where the school district has to okay them to go ahead and put this parcel tax on their tax bills.
Okay, thank you, because I'm a homeowner and I just wanted to make sure that I get more information on that, so I really appreciate it.
Completely understand. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. And I don't know that there were any board Josh, anything from
No,
you
I was just
as
going to say,
member of-
as somebody who's on the Measure L committee and wants to get spending this money on our infrastructure and facilities, I move to approve that Albany. Oh, do you have to do a roll call? Sorry, my bad. Apologies.
Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Celine,
There
grab.
you go. Sorry, I wasn't sure we'd already done it. Yeah, thank you.
Trustee Inglis?
Yes.
Trustee Khan?
Yes.
Vice President Mahoney?
Yeah.
President Hopwood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that resolution passes. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Great. So we are now going to move on to our discussion items. Moving first to A, which is a proposed modification to the threshold for the approval of contracted services.
Yes, just to give a quick summary, it has been a past practice for us to take to the board any service contracts that are in excess of $5,000. And since then, I believe this practice has been going on for quite a number of years. But as you're aware, the price of goods and so forth has gone up significantly. Of course, and we're still working based off of an old threshold that was set. So what we're trying to do is to streamline the volume, the process for taking contracted services to the board to approve anything that's greater than $25,000. I believe the backup detail has the table there. If you could scroll a little bit further, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So what we're basically proposing is that anything that's between the dollar amounts of like $0 to $5,000 or any services, the department director and also me, the CBO, will review the terms of the contracts and actually make the recommendation to either approve or disapprove those activities. The secondary tier, I should have probably labeled it tier, is that you have anything between contracted services that's between $5,001 to $25,000, of which we will have an internal stringent review process where Sarah and I, the superintendent and I, will actually go through, review the requests for the contracts and the terms, inquire, ask the questions, and then send it back or either approve them to kind of move business forward. And then anything greater than $25,000, basically the CBO has to sign off on all the contracts internally, which is why you see my name there or my position there. But however, we would like for those larger contracts to actually be reviewed by the Board of Trustees. We're hoping that by doing this, we can actually not, I guess, put in place like some of the holdbacks on day-to-day businesses, right? That's critical to making sure that the schools can operate and function and repairs are being made in a timely fashion.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. Again, we're going to start with public comment on this discussion item. Does anybody have anything to add? I'm not seeing any, so let's have a chat on the board about how we feel about this threshold. Anybody have any comments?
I go first? You go first.
I just have a question about, so I agree with streamlining. I'm just curious how you guys got to 25,000 as opposed to say 15 or 20. Like, are there internal reports that made that determination, or is it a standard?
It varies across different school districts. I think that with the size of ours and also from my past experiences, the threshold was actually greater than 50,000, and anything prior to that had a stringent internal review approval process.
And also it's worth noting that we do see all of these contracts in our warrant report. We have to ratify all of these within 60 days. So this is not something that we're not presented with. And in today's agenda, there are a couple of warrant reports from June and July as well. So we just ratify them after, and it means basically that the district can get on with the business of running it. I know in recent sort of memory we've had contracts that we've had to retroactively approve because it was really important to get work done. So this would help to sort of streamline it, as you mentioned. Do we have any?
Can I add one thing to that? I also want to say that one of the things that we want to make sure of is that anything that is going to be approved is in alignment with our LCAP and our emerging strategic plan, as well as our facilities and technology plan. So sometimes there are unplanned things that happen just in service of the need to fix things at schools, et cetera. But the goal, and I think through the warrant report, that would be one way you could look at it and see, are these the things that are in line with the plans that we have?
Yeah, so I'm generally in favor of raising the threshold. So I definitely have seen places where site leaders and other people within the district have had to wait to get stuff approved by the board before they move forward. And I generally believe that people that are closest to the work are best positioned to make decisions about the work, and we should empower them appropriately and hire the right sort of people. I'm not going to lie, like the bump from 5 to 25 just felt a little much to me. And so I did a little, so I'm not sure what you guys use for benchmarks. This is a little bit the $25,000 question, no pun intended. So I did a little research, and I looked at Berkeley, Palo Alto, which is crazy, and Oceanside. And these are just because I could not find published thresholds for districts. And so it was a tough thing to actually try and figure out. So using the similar percentages of like Berkeley and Oceanside unified, we would end up at around a $15,000 threshold. Palo Alto would have a $50,000 threshold in our district, and that feels like cray-cray to me, not to be. So, I mean, I really love the spirit of this. Like, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. I'll just be transparent. Personally, I'd love to at least start up at 15 or something like that and see how that goes before we move to 25. And it may be irrational, but and maybe like a mental math thing of just tripling feels, or pentupling feels like a lot, and tripling I can more wrap my head around. So I'm not going to follow the sword for it, but that's where my head is at.
I had the exact same thoughts. Was 15 would feel more comfortable to me, just because one, it is a huge jump, but also I do understand the need for it, because we've had way too many contracts that have needed to be approved afterwards. If we can amend it to 15, or the 5,001 to 15, I would be comfortable with moving forward with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of in line with the one I found was Portland, actually, in Oregon. I mean, it was quite hard to find details, thresholds in districts that are kind of comparable to ours. And yeah, when you kind of convert it, it was definitely more around that level. So we can absolutely.
So we don't approve. This is not an approval, right? This is a recommendation. This is a discussion, right?
Forward, yeah, I mean.
So I'd love if my take is that 15 would accelerate the ability of people to actually do their work in a great sort of way, which is, I think, the laudable goal. I'd love to try 15 for a while, and if we're like, this is just as we feel super comfortable, then maybe we revisit. But obviously, I'll ask you guys to come forward with that.
Yeah, I think that gradual increase, and also just in terms of community sort of trust and, just to revisit would be a good idea. Anyway, that's our discussion and our weighing in as a board. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Great, thank you. And now we are going to move to hot topics on the agenda. B, volunteer assistance, adult volunteers. So we have Marina Gonzalez, thank you.
I'm back. And I'll wait until we bring up the presentation. So you've had an opportunity to read that little blurb that I put in there. Okay. So next slide. Offering a little bit of background here. Of course, I'm probably just going to read from these slides, and I apologize. But we value our parent and community volunteers, obviously, and up until recently, we've had a multi-tiered volunteer system where the volunteer ones are folks, mostly parents, who are not fingerprinted, so they don't get a background check that through the California Department of Justice or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They're allowed to volunteer if they are under the constant and direct supervision of certificated personnel. And then there's volunteer 2. Those folks do get the background check. They go and get fingerprinted. And I apologize for the acronym here. They get a tuberculosis test, a TB test, or a risk assessment. That's where you answer some questions and the health provider determines whether you're at risk and whether you do need to get a TB test or if they can just sign off and say that you're no risk. Then there's volunteer 3. They do the same fingerprinting and TB testing, but they also take additional training, and these are like for our athletic and academic coaches, okay? And what I forgot to list here are our volunteer drivers, and those folks provide their license, their driving record, their insurance, registration, and it has to meet a certain threshold for insurance, all of those pieces. Next slide, please. So the concern that was growing for me was that volunteer 1 status, sure, allows folks on campus then they haven't had a background check, but also it sort of puts the onus on the teacher to try to know whether someone's a 1 or a 2, and there's too much, for me, opportunity for someone to think that the person's been fingerprinted and maybe allow them to take a small group to do a math circle into the center pod alone, that sort of thing. And so I really wanted to eliminate that risk. Next slide, please. So in anticipation of the year starting, I recommended to the superintendent that we eliminate the volunteer 1 status and that we require all adults to be fingerprinted and TB tested or risk assessed. And with the goal of being to protect every student at all times. Next slide. Thank you. So why fingerprinting matters? So what happens when we do a fingerprint background check is it does 2 things. The first is that it gives us someone's initial background check, wherever they stand right now. And the second thing it does is it sets us up to be on file with the Department of Justice and FBI to be notified if somebody has a subsequent arrest. If they get arrested for something, we get notified. It's an online portal. And then in addition to that, there's a certain set of penal codes, very specific penal codes outlined in the Ed Code, that if someone has been convicted of such a penal code, they are not permitted to work with us. And we apply those same penal codes to all of our volunteers. And next slide, please. So sorry, this slide looks a little funky because I was dealing with the template. So there's two slides full of penal codes. And some of the records that we've received for folks who have applied to be volunteers have been soliciting prostitution in a school zone, lewd and lascivious acts, kidnapping and transporting across state lines, statutory rape, to name a few. Next slide, please. But with thinking about, so we know that there's a lot of volunteer 1s, and we know that folks say, oh, it's so cumbersome to go and have to do your fingerprints and go see your doctor and wait. Kaiser gives you a 10-day window for getting your form back to you. So we were thinking, well, how can we streamline this? And so I've been in communication with mobile live scan services to try to get some set dates to be on site at our different campuses. And then we wanted to also have a healthcare provider on site at the same time. That healthcare provider being our school nurse who has gladly accepted that task. Next slide, please. So the benefits, obviously, 1 standard, safety is non-negotiable, and teachers don't have to try to figure out, or nobody has to be tracking this. Everybody knows that every parent volunteer is fingerprinted and has background check. Next slide. The implementation timeline. So again, securing some dates with mobile services in August and September, and our nurse communicating to families, and then in October have a full implementation, and then have monthly, somebody called them fingerprint parties, going forward, because we learned that West Contra Costa does that. Next slide. So just To close, basically, this is all about student safety. That's the priority. It's a growing concern, and just want to just have clear protocols for staff and just have peace of mind for families. Questions?
Thank you. And I really hope that that helps to alleviate some of the concerns that people had. We've had a lot of emails in the last few days, I think, because this had sort of not leaked out, but it was more that it was sort of communicated in a way that caused confusion and concern rather than clarity. So having said that, would love to hear if anyone else has a comment, so please go ahead and approach the podium.
Hi, my name is Yolanka. I spoke earlier. I have 3 kids in Albany. I'm a big supporter of public schools. My dad was a teacher. I'm a product of public schools. 3 of my 4 siblings are public school teachers. I also value the work all of you do. These are tough jobs, and I know you spend a lot of time. I appreciate just how much work, and that some of these jobs are virtually volunteer jobs, which is the topic we're discussing today. I see the value of this new regulation. It's a very logical and makes sense on its face. But regulation isn't free. As someone who volunteers, even though I work full time, it's extremely difficult to get volunteers. Regulations are not free. We heard earlier that French has been canceled for students. We heard earlier that some kids can't get into science classes. This is going to cost a lot of money. And we saw a slide on the benefits, but I didn't see a single slide on the costs. And many or most events would be canceled. And I like my kids to enjoy school. I like them to have volunteers in the classroom. I like them to get parents to show up. I went to Madame Kaiser, who's not here right now, but she was sitting there, at her cheese event, and I was in the classroom the entire time. That event would not happen with this regulation. And so when I go to my job and somebody suggests a change, I ask for the trade-offs. What are the pros and what are the cons? We heard none of the cons. I'd like this to come back and be discussed with the cons discussed. I would like a long-range implementation plan. For example, maybe this gets implemented once you reach a threshold of a certain number of volunteers getting fingerprinted and TB tested. I appreciate that the focus is on safety, but safety comes with trade-offs. Kids will not get to have events. They will not get to go to places. And I don't think that was evaluated, and I think this needs to come back again. And I think the communication plan, as you noted, was also very poorly implemented. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Go ahead, Ms. Martinez.
As a member of the Familias Latinas, I got to tell you, when the election happened, there were a lot of people scared. And one of the things is that many things are getting weaponized. You run someone's fingerprint, we might see more visitors in our schools and our city than we might want. You want to talk about kidnapping, there's a lot of that going on for our own kind. So we might want to check our entitlements as far as what we can do freely, those who are our citizens. So you're putting a lot of people at risk that you may not have, and you're taking away their chance to be part of a community and also part of their children's life. Participating is something I take very seriously. I've been in this community since 2006, and I gotta tell you, I trust your teachers with my students when it comes to who they are around. Not because they're just teachers, but because I have had the opportunity to work with them. You see, I come here and I voice my concerns, and we might have a discussion, and we might not like what we say to each other, but one thing I assure you, being in this community, I have worked with so many people that I think are great unsung heroes. And if we're going to tell them that we don't trust them with who our children are with, we're undermining not only them as professionals, but as also members who have their own kids in this community as well. So I urge the police reconsider. I understand safety is paramount. As a Marine, I can tell you, I am very in agreement that we have to have something in place that can help everyone feel safe. But I think this is not the right way to do it, and I feel that more communication and more discussions need to happen in order to get there. So Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. And just to remind everyone, this is a discussion item, so we're not taking action on this. Go ahead, Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon Huffaker, just for the record. I wanted to comment on a couple of things. One is that I wanted to note something additional about the plan. I appreciate the idea of having all the information taken at school and having the live scan come. I too would like to see how much that costs and see what a plan is for implementing that before we adopt a policy like this. I'm also want to put a flag out there for what's involved in a risk assessment for TB and whether or not a parent might want all of that medical information given to a school personnel. For example, when I'm assessing someone as a risk for TB, I need to know their HIV status. I need to know other things about their medical background that may not be something that we want our school staff to know about us when we're doing that. So I'm a little concerned about that. I also wanted to clarify, because something that was said made it sound like, oh, we were always all along planning to not really implement this until October, but that's not my understanding of what happened. My understanding of what happened is that the middle school PTA was told 2 days before an event that they needed to have completely volunteer to certified staff in order to help with the registration. Now, I don't know where that communication came from, but I think that it really wasn't very well thought out, and I want to just say we really you cannot put that on these volunteer organizations. Like, that is not, that you're asking them to do a job that is during their summer still to help, and there's really very few staff, from my understanding, at middle school registration at all, and you would not have been able to do that event without those volunteers, none of whom were volunteer certified. And I'm glad it was walked back, but the idea that everyone who came here tonight to talk about this was sort of misinterpreting it, I do not think that is what happened. I think they were told something different. Thanks.
Thanks for your comment. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I do want to affirm that student safety is the most important thing. And Marina, if I had your role, I would probably be making the same ultimate recommendation, because I do think it's very difficult for the teachers to keep track of who is cleared. So just personally, not speaking for my organization, I think that's the North Star, right? We're getting to a place where everyone is cleared and you don't have to wonder who's in the room or managing that kind of thing. But the change management is going to be huge for the school. You know, the middle school is running snack cart with volunteer cashiers every day. There's dozens of people involved. We ran registration largely with volunteers. And as soon as this news started coming out that this change would happen, we got a lot of questions. Well, what if it's after hours? What if it's a community event on the weekend? Do we have to background check vendors at a craft fair if they're adults and they're on school property, but there are maybe some parents there and some kids are alone? Just like a ton of questions. So we really need an implementation plan. We need like effective dates, we need an FAQ so that we can be partners in implementing this and making it workable, because otherwise we're just going to keep trying our best to answer questions that we don't have all the information to answer. So I would just ask you to work with all of us, and I think everyone wants to support kids being safe at school and in the classroom, so we're here for that.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Moose O'Donnell. I'm a parent of an Albany High student, and I'm the past president of the AHS PTSA. I really, like the others, I really appreciate the focus on safety, and I really appreciate the effort you put into making this less of a burden on parents to implement, and having the monthly live scan sounds great. The one thing I'd like to clarify, I don't think it's functional, like others have said, to completely say, oh, every volunteer is certified, because I think there's different levels of what it means to be a volunteer. And so within the PTSA, we have teacher appreciation events where parents are walking in to drop off a dish of food and walking out. Does that count as volunteering? Do they need to be level 2 certified to walk down the hall? I think that would be a reasonable interpretation of the policy. Similarly, graduation is another event where lots of parent volunteers are folding up chairs. Do we have to tell them, oh, you can't fold up chairs if you're not a level 2 certified volunteer? So I think that these are reasonable. You've moved the gray area, I would say, is what's happened. And I think like others have said, the implementation plan should include more clarity so there aren't people saying, oh, wait, you can't help with chair folding because you're not live scanned. So, but thank you for all the work you're putting into this.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Does anybody else have a comment or a question? So I really appreciate all of these. It's so helpful. And just to reassure you that some of the issues you've mentioned, for example, talking about our vulnerable communities and fingerprinting, these are things we have talked about. This is, we've obviously thought of those kinds of challenges. I think what would be helpful, and actually when we go on to our next item on this part of the agenda as well, just clarity and the idea of maybe having a grid. So we've talked about things like Snack Cart, which I coordinated at the middle school for years, and I totally understand. And it's you're right there on the yard. Versus I also volunteered in the kindergarten centre pod, which I think is absolutely reasonable. I was fingerprinted because I was a driver as well in the schools. So I think it's going to really differ on student contact, how kind of isolated you are as a parent volunteer. So it'd be really helpful ultimately to sort of have a grid of, okay, this particular volunteer role needs this level 2 clearance, and perhaps, like you said, folding chairs on Cougar Field, doesn't. So I think just great to have some kind of collaboration, but I really appreciate all of your thought about this.
And I just, because I know I was going through this, and I know folks are trying to process it, those convictions that I mentioned, kidnapping, lewd and lascivious acts, statutory rape, those are folks who were parents and are parents in this district. I want to make that very clear. And this is to identify those people, because I don't want them at the snack cart, even. I don't want them walking down the hall. Because sometimes people do dumb things when they're young, when they're 18 years old, and it stays on their record forever, and they're not that person anymore. But sometimes they're predators, and they're always predators.
That's a really good point. I appreciate it. Sorry, I'd like to move on to the board. So if you have just a very quick, yes.
And I appreciate that, honestly. I live right across the street, so I'm always calling the office and say, hey, there's a student that got out of your school, So I completely understand, but what I was saying is more having a different way of doing it. Perhaps, I got introduced here, there was a retreat, there was other stuff. Maybe teachers, maybe not now, but they can go through a class, they get certified, they have, they can talk to you about the process. So believe me, what I don't want you to think is that you're alone in what you're saying, but I think what we're saying is, let's get there. You brought a good point up, let's find a way to get there, and that's all we're saying.
Yes, of course. And I appreciate all of the feedback, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and student safety is paramount. Right, board, questions or comments? Go ahead.
Lots of thoughts, actually. I guess the easier one is, how often will we be requiring this? Sometimes you held multiple different roles. Will I have to do that, based on different roles that I hold or different sites? But I think the biggest one is, how often will this happen? I think the other thing I think about is, what about when we have volunteer book authors that come and just are going to be there? Like we've had that at Ocean View. We had a wonderful local author who came and read their story to our students, and obviously there were multiple, parents and staff in the room, but still, if they're volunteering their time to be here, are we going to also expect them to be fingerprinted as well? What's the impact? And I'm hoping that we can think this through a little bit more. I think the other thing that kind of, absolutely, I understand why we need this and why it's important and the urgency, but I'm also thinking about how this is going to impact some of our major events that PTAs are hosting, full transparency. You already know I'm with Ocean View, where our fall festival is the biggest and honestly the main fundraising source for us. This timeline would mean the bulk of our volunteers would not be able to actually make Fall Festival happen. We're already at a budget deficit at Ocean View with our PTA. Definitely would not like to see that continued, and we've already had other, things that we've had to eliminate that we don't even know if Fall Festival is going to bring anything in this year, actually. And so this would further kind of, completely prevent our PTA from even being able to have that. So there's, lots of concern, and I hope that we can consider those things as we're moving forward.
Can I answer your question about how often? When you get fingerprinted one time, it's good forever until we notify the Department of Justice that we no longer want to receive. So we have like inactive folks because their kids have all graduated. We don't need to receive anything for them. The TB is good for 4 years, so you just have to repeat it every 4 years.
And what are we going to have, like a system in place that's going to make sure parents, because I forget to renew my PTA membership, so like.
So usually when someone is trying, like say they're trying to chaperone or they're wanting to come on campus, our site secretaries, we have a database with all the volunteers, and they look to see if they're current on their TB or if they're current on their driving records and documents, and then we'll let them know whether they need to renew something. And if, as the plan goes, if we're able to do this on a monthly basis, folks can check their redo their TBs every 4 years. So when schools get started, I know the elementary schools, they try to get all the kindergarten parents, like get fingerprinted so that you don't have to do this until, ever again, all the way through 12th grade.
So I also, of course, I'm not going to argue that safety is important, but I will say that when I read it, it really did come out of nowhere for me personally. I have spent 12 plus years volunteering at Marin, at AMS. I was the PTA president. I have been actively volunteering. I've been recruiting volunteers. I've been running events. I have never heard or seen or experienced an issue. Obviously, that's just my experience, but I haven't. And it does feel right now like what's being proposed is breaking something that is a really incredibly valuable part of our community. And I don't believe that the unintended consequences of what's being proposed has been thought about at all. I spent time writing down 15 to 20 different events that literally cannot happen if this is put into play. I'm going to read a couple because I bothered to write them. Volunteering at math stations and PE stations. I did that with other parents year over year with my kids. Garden helpers, library helpers, this is all at the elementary. The classroom parties, AMS dance chaperones, volunteering, that's a repeat. Classroom parties and movie nights at the elementary school. The international celebrations that happen at all levels, at the middle school, the high school, elementary. The 6th grade Halloween event is about 50 people. The spring soiree is about 50 people. The OV bake sales that happen after school, Harry Potter night. There are clubs, after school tutoring, and the snack cart, which has been mentioned. And I would really like you guys to go back and understand and really think about if there is a way to have much more thoughtful levels, because these events will disappear. I've done this, I have managed them, and it is pulling teeth getting people to come out. And I appreciate the comment about the teachers not wanting to manage it. I have never heard that, ever, and all the time. And I have spent hours upon hours in classrooms, and that has absolutely never been a concern. Again, I don't want to say that safety is not a concern. Obviously it is, but I don't think that we can just move forward with this without thinking through all of that and understanding the additional part is the equity that's going to have just the parents who, even if you drive them to get their TB test, many of them can't do it, and they will not be able to participate in their children's lives at school. Thank you.
Can I also just, real quick add, I don't remember seeing parent engagement groups or what level of impact would be for them. And so that's another consideration as well, because between AAPI for parent, like all of the parent groups that I volunteer with, we all have, so many different events on campuses. And so that's another piece to think about as well. We bring performers, like so many different elements to this, so.
So I too share the concerns around safety, and I think the fact that I think we shouldn't the fact that even today, we identify people through the Volunteer 2 program that have some concerns about people we wouldn't want unsupervised around our kids is not good, and we definitely don't want to loosen that up at all. So that's laudable. And I also think it's laudable to not try and put this burden on teachers. I mean, I've never asked a teacher whether they know whether I'm volunteer 1, volunteer 2. I have no doubt they have no freaking idea, pardon my French. And I wouldn't expect them to. But there may be other ways. I guess I might push back that maybe there are other ways to skin the cat, and maybe we should, pardon my French, that one too. In terms of like, are there ways that we can better enforce identification of parents on campus and be more rigorous around those sorts of things, which I think have other safety sort of things. If everyone had a volunteer 1 versus volunteer 2 badge or something like that, I'm not making solutions. I'll trust you to go and do some thinking about that. I also have equity concerns. You know, one of the things I've thought a lot about is, and I don't know what the answer is, but do our volunteers look like our students? I'm going to guess they don't, and I'm going to guess that putting more obstacles in place is going to make it more challenging across the board. So I want to make sure that as we think about that, we keep that in mind as well. So I mean, I think other than that, I think, I mean, I guess maybe my last question would be better understanding what some of our surrounding districts do to better understand. And you may have already done this, and pardon my ignorance for not knowing this about what it looks like in West Contra Costa or Berkeley or whatever, to see if they've already solved this problem in different ways. So I applaud the intent. I think we've got some opportunities to get better from an execution perspective would be my guidance.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ms. Gonzalez, and thanks everyone here also for your comments. And if you have any more to add, please email the board of ed at ausdk12.org. We're now going to move on to the next item on this discussion part of our agenda, which is the Albany Unified School District Allergy Plan. And here we have Executive Director Brill.
Great. Hello, good evening, President Hopwood, Board Trustees, Superintendent Stone, and community. I think I know almost all of you, but I'm Deb Brill, the Director of Student Services, here with our second hot topic of the evening, our allergy policy. And so what I want to lead with is the part I think everybody agrees on. You know, we know that we want to protect our students. You know, 1 in 13 children are known to have life-threatening allergies. And a lot of times those don't get discovered until a little bit later. 25% of students tend to have their first anaphylactic reaction when at school. So it's not even just those that we know, but it's also those that we don't know. And I know that everybody is wanting to protect the safety of our students. And I think I want to also just kind of add to that, there's the physical safety, which obviously when we're talking about life-threatening allergies is number one. And then there's also emotional safety in terms of their feelings of inclusion, which I think are, you know, particularly, you know, K-8, you know, when kids are younger, and then, you know, middle school is a time when that feels really important too. And so the goal of this plan is to really honor that and to, as a district, take some of that responsibility. The families that I know, a number of different families who have students with life-threatening allergies have felt like they've had to hold the burden of advocacy to keep their kids safe. And I know as a parent, you want to drop your kid off and know that they're in good hands and that they're going to be okay, and that's what we want to provide for them. That said, I also know that, you know, not unlike what we were just talking about before, the rollout and different pieces of information getting out ahead of others and just kind of how that process went, I know threw a lot of people for a loop, and I want to acknowledge that and just kind of go through where we are right now with what the plan is, and just invite you know, obviously board, I don't need to invite you, you're gonna, it's your meeting, but also community, just to, what are we not thinking of and what needs to be considered still. And I know the plan, the way it's written right now, there's just a lot of information in there. It was
written to be like a site leader facing plan, like what are all the things, who are all their stakeholders that they need to communicate with, who needs to get the pictures of the kids with allergies, who needs, what do they need to tell the athletic director, what about parents, all of that. Once we kind of have some, clear direction of that, this is our next steps, I'll put together some kind of abridged documents of like, what do families need to know, and, kind of nice, clearly written ways, and what do teachers need. So I think what I want to share is, and what we are trying to balance through all of this is, how do you both make sure that students are safe as best we possibly can, and kind of balance that with the specifics and the how, and kind of the leveling of that, so that we're not taking away things that don't need to be taken away. And also that we're considering what's age appropriate in terms of what we can expect a 5-year-old to do in their own self-protection versus a 15-year-old, an adult, a staff member. What about when parents are there? So basically where we're at with the plan now, and there was an updated version that was put into the board packet, I believe that was on Monday. So that was yesterday. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've lived a lifetime since yesterday. But that, just so those people who only seen the first one know, we have made some updates and clarifications in there. So the main thing is nut-free across the board, and that is something that a lot of districts do, and there's so many kids who have life-threatening allergies. Some of those are airborne as well, contact allergies. Some kids, like I said, don't even know until they are older, and so that is one thing that we have put in the plan as far as being students, staff, everybody nut-free on campus. Then when we moved to in the classroom, I think in general in districts kind of across the board, and I've been in this district, this is my 25th year, and there's been a big shift in terms of the amount of food. I remember when we used to give food for like rewards all the time or incentives, and then that kind of phased out, and used to be a lot more food-based celebrations. So I think in general the shift is, we don't need as many food-based celebrations in the classroom. It's a lot more complicated. There's also like pests and things that we want to be careful about food inside. So that's one piece. And we also want to like give teachers the space if that's something that feels important in their teaching spaces or for special celebrations to do that. But when we're in a classroom setting and kids have to be there and we want them to feel included in everything that's happening, what we're asking for in addition to nut-free is that teachers, and I think they already do this, really know who else has allergies in their classroom to prevent there being, like sometimes a student might have an egg allergy or a citrus allergy or something else. So to manage that piece of it, and then to have in the classroom space packaged foods, so that, because a lot of times when we have foods that come in from home, even people who are super well-intentioned don't think about, oh yeah, that was the pan that I also used for the stir fry that had peanuts in it, or there's some, peanut oil in this thing that I didn't think about. And so just while kids are under our care in our classroom space, we're asking for the foods to be prepackaged or from a nut-free facility, taking into account any other allergies. Then, in terms for staff, we're not managing that piece at all. They're adults. We're again, though, asking principals to solicit from staff anybody who voluntarily wants to share what their allergies are, and then the principals can kind of take the lead of saying like, hey, in our staff lounges, we're going to avoid having these couple of foods if there's something that a staff member is concerned about. It's an airborne thing or a contact piece. But other than that, for staff, we're saying they're adults, can have potlucks and food things, and just no nuts, please. And then for the after school piece, what we're looking at is sort of an articulated plan, again with elementary students and even with middle school students who are fairly impulsive. We love them. We want to make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure that, like in their team settings, in their club settings, that those allergies, that we're protecting students. By the time we get to high school, outside of the classroom setting, bake sales and things like that, we're again saying nut-free and please label ingredients. I think by high school, teenagers are able to, if they have an allergy, to be like, oh, I want to buy this brownie. Is that safe for me to do? Is that okay? And that's something that they've had time to practice and
are transitioning to being, closer to adulthood. The community events we're putting a pause on, and saying, when we're talking about community events, what we're saying is events when parents are present. So it's not like, it's an after-school thing with, a couple chaperones and a whole bunch of kids, but, like a community potluck sort of idea. And the idea being that we'll take this year and work together with PTAs and other people that put on events and just, talk about how do we make sure that our events feel inclusive and invite some families who have kids with allergies. What would feel good to you? What's important to you about these events? If we want to continue to have potlucks, how can we do that in a way that keeps our kids safe and keeps them feeling included, but also doesn't take away some of these kind of core community building pieces that I know feel like a fabric piece in the community. So I'm going to pause there. I think that's kind of, in my mind, the kind of highlights and overview of where we are at this moment, and just invite any clarifying questions, any things we're not thinking of, any perspectives that you want to make sure get incorporated as we look at how we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I hope everyone appreciates the amount of conversation and willingness to kind of collaborate that has come from the district in the last few days. There's really been a lot of back and forth and conversation, but we'd love to hear more. So if anybody here would like to approach the podium and let us know what you think.
Thank you so much for that overview. I think the first thing I want to note is that you said a lot more than is written down. And so this is definitely another place that families, parents, the PTA, like all of us need a lot more guidelines. And even in this revised document, I still find the section about the PTA and the section about community events confusing, like what we're supposed to be doing. So definitely, we want everyone to be safe. We don't want students to be having life-threatening allergic reactions at school. I think the first thing Shannon Huffaker ever said to me was no nuts, possibly, for like all events. So, we do try to, I do think of our schools as nut-free spaces. I'm sure there's a way to go, and lots that that I don't about what that looks like. But I think it's something we want to collaborate on. Homemade food is really critical. It's critical for bake sales, it's critical for potlucks, it's critical for classroom celebrations of our culture. And so I just want to use my last minute to talk specifically about my child's experience in 6th grade at AMS with a teacher who did an incredible integrated project where there was writing, everyone chose a food that was important to their family, they wrote about it, there were different skills mobilized, and at the end they had the option to make the food at home and bring it to share at lunch. There were very clear instructions. Nuts were definitely off the table. We labeled every ingredient. We labeled every allergen. It was optional. It happened outside, not in the physical classroom space. So it was incredibly moving. My son chose pumpkin empanadas, which are my mother-in-law's signature dish. She passed away about 6 months ago. My husband spoke about this experience at her memorial service. So I really just want to bring home the human impact of using homemade food in a teaching situation. Of course, I don't want to put anyone at risk, but I think there's a lot to think about here. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have similar comments to the previous speaker and also to my previous comments. I appreciate the intent here. I really do. And I think everybody here is going to say that they want to make place safer for children and our students. There's no question about that. But again, there are trade-offs for decisions. And there's also an orderly way of making changes. And it's not the day before the first day of school. I'm a working mother of 3. I work full-time, a demanding job. It's a big deal that I'm even here. I have many, many things that I need to do. So in the future, I really ask very, very vehemently that things be rolled out in a sensible way with a clear discussion, with timeline, with discussion with volunteers, with discussion with the people who are impacted. That has not happened in this case or in the last case. I also appreciate that there was modifications made. I love that. I love the feeling that there's a discussion. But posting something on Monday for somebody who works full time is just it's not enough time. I also would like to note that this is described as a discussion item, but the discussion item is listed as we are implementing this. That doesn't feel like a discussion item. That feels like an implementation plan that should be voted on. So I would also ask the board to review with lawyers what things need to actually be voted on both these items feel like things that should be voted on because they impact our kids. This is a public school, not a private school. It's funded by taxpayers and it's funded by stakeholders. So I appreciate everything that's gone into this. I care about safety, but I really think many, many things need to change before this comes back to what I hope will be a voting item. And just like what you mentioned, Ms. Hopwood, there should be a grid. There should be very clear things. My daughter loved her French class when we came in with volunteers who looked at cheese. I went to a local store because I care about Albany to buy that cheese. Clearly, I wouldn't be allowed to do this under this policy, and even the revised policy. And I think we're harming children. And so I think we have to remember that there needs to be trade-off and evaluations. Thank you. I really appreciate all the work all of you have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Anyone else?
I just have a quick this is great. I appreciate the revision a lot. It's much clearer. I think I just want to flag for when this comes back. I think the community events still need some clarification because there's a lot of community events where there's a lot of parents around, but not all parents are around, right? So there's maybe potlucks where sometimes a parent isn't there, but there's definitely like spring soiree, there's craft fairs, there's things where lots and lots of parents are there, but not every single kid's parent is there. And so for a PTA or for whoever's organizing it, they're going to need some real clarity about what exactly that means. And then I just wanted to point out that I think the one-pager doesn't totally reflect the changes that you made on the rest of the plan because it still sort of has the thing about like provide only packaged foods, all AUSD events. So when this gets really circulated, that needs to be updated as well. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also in agreement with certain things about this, but the parts that I find a little bit that we need more discussion is the after-school events and parent participation. It has been said here, it's hard to get parents to volunteer. And not only that, there's cultural aspect of our foods. So when we're sharing, there are going to be those who only can participate with one dish or two that they have, right? And so for me I've always thought about this, about allergies. When it comes to school, when the kids, hear the alarm to the end of that day, allergies, everything, good. I'm going to go buy that, the peanut butter that's not really peanut butter, all the stuff, right? And I'm going to, but when it comes to parent events, we know our kids. So, we have to take responsibility too as parents. Hey, I'm not gonna let my kid eat this because, I agree. We should say, hey, if you're gonna volunteer, please label your food if it has any ingredients to do with nuts. And then let the parent be the one that parents the kid. At one point, it's a relationship. You guys have your roles. We have our roles as parents. So by giving us the opportunity to do these events, to say, hey, label your food if it has nuts, it gives us also the opportunity to bring the community together, to have these volunteers come up and show up. So I appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is it okay if I just...
Please do,
yeah. I just two things I wanted to just say, well, three actually. One is I hear you all and I agree. I mean, the whole piece around food and what it means and all of that, I think it's just trying to figure out how do we kind of thread that needle and navigate that. And, in the written piece, again, the way things rolled out and kind of how how people have been talking about that, again, I agree was... this document wasn't meant to go out this way, and I think just the way things move so fast this time of year and communicating with principals and all of our teams, I just want to acknowledge that the intent wasn't for people to just kind of get this document and be like, hey, guess what, in 2 days this is all happening. So I apologize for kind of on behalf of just kind of all of us of how it all kind of rolled out that way. And the one-pagers meant for principals to help guide their conversation with athletic directors, but now things do need to shift. And so I just want to say that I think the piece in terms of moving forward, I'm a lot of the pieces you brought up are actually really helpful of like where that detailed clarification needs to happen, where that gray area is. So we'll work on kind of untangling some of that so that there's clear direction and having some, like parent-facing documents and teacher-facing documents. So we'll work on those pieces. And then the last thing I want to just respond to is just, if you are in here and you are interested in kind of thought partnering as we move forward with the community pieces of it, if you want to just send me an email, dbrill@ausdk12.org, I can get you on the list, or maybe you know somebody who has the bandwidth and might be willing to work on it a little bit. Thanks.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Board, questions, comments? Oh, sorry. No, I didn't see anyone. No, Moose, go ahead. Yeah, if you wanted to. Sorry, I didn't see anyone else.
A quick comment. Again, I appreciate everything you've put into this, and a lot of the things you said really clarified a lot of the issues that are in the document. I mean, quick suggestion is just mark it as a draft with a big watermark so people don't panic when they see something on the school board website. But I really think the piece that I want to speak to is just the concept of different tiers for different grade levels. And you mentioned this, but it's not clear from the document that after school events at the high school, where really the kids are a year away from eating whatever crap they serve them at the dorms and are going to have to figure it out, that those events, and I'm specifically thinking about things like theater where kids are working, they're there till 10 o'clock at night, they need parents to bring them food, and if it's that is the rule, those half the kids are not going to eat because they're going to be like, I can't eat pizza one more night. So just thinking about how this is written so that it's clear that high school parents can look at it and say, oh yeah, that's fine, and not think, oh my God, we're being the rules that need to be there in place for the K-5 are applied to the whole district.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
For the work.
Thanks.
Thank you for that and for everyone else's comments. And actually, I think that speaks also to the necessity for having a kind of grid, as onerous as that might be. I mean, I've had an email from a theatre fund parent today talking about Tech Week, for example. That's at school, but it's after school. It's a kind of a gray area. So we just need some real clarification about, with the volunteer piece and also with the food piece, about which events we're looking at. So definitely food for thought, not a pun not intended actually then, but anyway, moving on to the board. Anybody have questions or comments? Yeah.
Sure, I'll go first. Echo a lot of what the community has already brought forth. A couple things I want to highlight. So a lot of this conversation hasn't had representative from students that do have allergies, and I want to make, but I got cut off by the board cut me off already. And so I want to, obviously we need to bring both sides into account. So I just want to be sensitive to that constituency as well. Keeping it safe is obviously critical. Nut-free schools has been a board policy since before I joined the board, so that's not an actual change. I do think, one of the things I do appreciate about the proposed policy is the rigor within the schools themselves in terms of keeping track and understanding clarity on who has life-threatening allergies and those sorts of things. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and make sure that we highlight some things I think are really, really strong on that. Having said that, yeah, I echo that. I think food is a huge part of culture, and we got to figure out how to do that. I think having food be store-bought also prevents, again, I hate to say equity issues as well in terms of that sort of expression. I think those are probably my main comments. I think you've heard a lot of the same things already from people.
Not to beat a dead horse, but very similar sentiments to Vice President Mahoney and the community. I think the one area that I didn't see spoken on, I'll just bring up, is the prepackaged snacks. Do they need to be from completely nut-free facilities? I think some clarification around that would be helpful as well. Same thing with restaurants. I know there are some exceptions around food and pizza from restaurants, but again, how do we, what is the level of nut-free that we're looking for? Does it have to be a restaurant that does not serve any nut products at all? What does that look like? So I think some clarity around that would be helpful as well. I know when we do Teacher Appreciation Week, oftentimes, parents will send in prepackaged nut-containing items as well. And so, and the thing is, what we have done is to clearly label it and make sure that information is available, and that oftentimes I've seen has been at a different level than what happens within the classroom or at after-school events. And so I think, again, just better clarity on what is being required of folks would be helpful. And then lastly, are we or are we not including parent engagement groups in this, and what does that look like as well?
Thank you.
Trustee Inglis.
I'm going to read my list again. Just kidding. So I agree with what everybody's saying, and honestly, I thought we were already nut-free because in all the activities, especially, in elementary.
Board policy is we're nut-free campuses, but it doesn't mean that nuts don't show up. But we don't, my understanding is the chefs and whatever, no nuts and those sorts of things, so that's like I said, a board policy that existed before, even I joined the board.
Well, either way, I support it across all campuses. I think that's kind of an easy win. I do, like everybody has said, I do think I appreciate the changes. It still lacks clarity. I mean, I do feel like there needs to be a pretty exhaustive grid, right, about events, when you transition from only store-bought food, no nuts, right, transitioning to when home-baked food can come in. I do think that you brought up being age appropriate. This seems also very easy to implement in the classroom in an elementary school, but as you go out to events, it becomes harder and more impactful to those events, right? Like movie night at Marin, for example. But also, I would want us to go back and look at the middle school, because I don't think that, I do think that the middle school could be significantly more free than, say, the elementary school in terms of the home-baked food, right? Not nuts, but the home-baked food. Anyway, so I would love to have the plan come back with the grid so we can really see each event and every restriction and what type of food. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot one, which was EpiPens for would having them at parent engagement group events or even after school events, is that something we want to think about as well or not? Just because if the item is already at the school, why not have it accessible for certain events in case that does become a concern? So,
anyone else? No? Well, I appreciate the conversation. And also just encourage people to be involved and advocate, and if there's anything else you think of, just to contact Deborah, as she mentioned. Thank you so much. We are now going to close this item, and we will move on to our consent calendar. Any thoughts about the consent calendar from the board? Anybody in the audience want to comment on any consent calendar items?
Does that include the one about the structures and stuff like that, or what is it for the next time?
It's for this item coming up right now, which is item 7, approval of the consent calendar. So there are many items.
Never mind. I'm going to wait.
Right, no worries. Thank you, though.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. I'm not seeing any questions or comments. Are we ready to move to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar as is.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, so the consent calendar passes, thank you. And we are moving now to item 8, which is future board meetings and agenda planning. Do we have any items for future discussion?
My brain is fried.
I think we're all feeling a little weary after.
My only comment is I know we have a retreat at the end of the month. I want to be mindful as we schedule some of our study sessions. One of the things we approved in the consent calendar was about $270K from a special ed perspective. And I know we've been mindful about how we're trying to put some structures in place to better manage those costs. Obviously, we want to do the right thing from a student perspective, but just want to see how we get a hold on that, and I want to make sure that remains as a good board study session sort of activity.
Totally agree, and we've already talked about that as being one of maybe, if not the first study session is about special ed expenditures. Any other future items?
Can I ask a question? Of all of you, given the public comment at the beginning about the Zoom, the change, is that something that we would want to have be a part of our board study session or a future meeting?
I would think we would talk about it at the retreat.
Agree.
I'm sorry, I meant retreat.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. I would think we would think about it at the retreat where we talk about norms and stuff for the meetings.
Great. Any other upcoming agenda items? Nope, not seeing any. Great, so I think I actually need to get a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting so that we can convene to closed session. So someone move to adjourn this portion?
I move to adjourn open session.
I second.
Great, so all in favor?
Yes.
Great, so we
Aye.
are going to adjourn now at 8:05. We are going to meet in closed session and we will report back here in an hour or so any action that we took in closed session.
Sorry, I waited for a while because I wanted to go back to the structures and everything that was talked about at the beginning that Superintendent Stone said. Is there any way I can just do the 2 minutes or whatever the time was?
So we actually don't allow comments on the superintendent's report or the board member reports. It's the rules. It's not that we decided, it's just that's how it goes in terms of public comment on agenda items.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, please feel free to email, yes.
Okay, I would really appreciate your partnership, and I think in getting the city to put more signs for children's crossing, and so that's like mainly the one. So
There have been email, and also feel
Thank
free
you
to
so
email,
much.
email city council too.
Yes.
perfect.
They're the only ones that have.
Oh, I did. You know what they said? They said that they sent someone that their study found that Talbot and Cornell did not warrant speed bumps or anything else because there was not a lot of traffic. I said to them, did they come during the summer break? Anyways,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
President Hopwood, point of order, sorry. I think it's important to read what
Yes.
is going to be discussed in closed session and allow for public
Thank you
comment.
for the reminder, yes. So we are going to convene to closed session to discuss anticipated litigation, liability claims, and existing litigation. Do we have any public comment on those items? Not seeing any. Thank you so much. So we will be back in an hour or so. Great, fingers crossed. We are currently reconvening to open session. It's 9:21 to report on closed session actions, and the board voted unanimously in closed session to reject the tort claim. And that was all. So we are now going to adjourn at 9:21 also. Thank you. Oh, I should make a motion, actually. Yes, sorry. I need a motion to adjourn with.
Move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we are adjourning unanimously. Thank you.